Do you have a stained fiberglass front door that you want to paint? Then this video is for you. I'll show you exactly how I convert this door from poorly stained to perfectly painted in 5 simple steps, including my go-to primer for this application. You don't want to mess that part up because it can really lead to a bad time. Yo, what's cracking? Jeremy Vassar here, and I've painted hundreds of front doors over the years, many of which have been the fiberglass variety like this one. It's a fairly straightforward process, but you can run into some issues if you're unaware of them, particularly in the prep and priming part of this job. Let's get started with step number 1, which is the prep. So the prep for this door is fairly straightforward. The first thing I did is just lay down a drop cloth underneath my working area, and then I went ahead and removed the door hardware. You don't have to remove the hardware, but if it's easy to do so, then I would highly recommend doing that. Once I had the hardware removed, it's time to get the surface of the door to be clean, dry, and dull so that it'll take our primer and we get a good bond. And the way I did that is sand it down with 150 grit sandpaper. This particular fiberglass door was original to when the house was first built, probably about 15 years ago or so. And a lot of times those fiberglass doors come with like this staining kit, and this one wasn't applied particularly well. I just made sure to sand it down vigorously, making sure there was no heavy build spots, and the finish had worn pretty severely in a lot of spots even before I started prepping this door. Once I had everything sanded, I vacuumed it with my shop vac and then wiped down the whole surface of the door with a rag. And then it is ready to go for step 2, which is to prime. So to prime this front door, I went with Fresh Start Acrylic from Benjamin Moore. It's one of my favorite primers for this application, and I applied it with a 2.5-inch Corona Cortez brush, also my go-to jam. And in general, I just followed the grain pattern of the door. I started around the window and then kind of worked out from there. And I also painted the toe of the door, which had been previously stained. So I did that and then kind of filled out the middle portion of the door following the grain pattern of the door. So for the horizontal rails, I went left to right, and then for any of the vertical pieces, I went up and down. And a word of caution on selecting primers for this application. The goal for the priming on this is to seal in that stain so that none of the stain bleeds through your top coats of finish paint. You may be tempted to use something like Ben shellac, which works great on actual wooden trim, but fiberglass front doors have way more flex in them than typical wood. So the Ben shellac is very brittle when it hardens. It doesn't have quite enough flex to it, so you can run into issues of the door flexing too much and then your finish kind of cracking out because the Ben shellac is actually cracking. I've also heard of things where the Ben shellac can kind of eat away at the fiberglass itself. Avoid that. That's why I go with Fresh Start Acrylic, which I've had 0 issues with as I've done many of these doors. Once I got the door coated with the primer, it's just time to let that dry, and then we're gonna move on to our next step. But in this video, I'm showing you how to paint the interior of a front door. If you wanna see how I go about painting the exterior of a front door, then you may wanna check out the free front door mini course that can be found in my online community called Paint Your Home Now, which is also free. I'll leave a link in the description in case you're interested. Now onward to step number 3, which is where we're gonna lay down our first top coat of finish paint. And for this particular application, I went with Emerald Urethane Trim Enamel and Semi-Gloss, and the color is Tony Top. That's a Sherwin-Williams product. I laid it down also with my 2.5-inch Corona Cortez. And so on this door, I started by painting the toe of the door. I just followed the old line that was there and tried to clean it up as best I could. Then I did the middle around the window and then kind of worked out from there, similar to what I did with the primer. Once I got kind of that whole section done around the window and that whole accent piece around there, I did the top rail, and then I dropped down and did the panels below and filled in that whole section. And just keep in mind, I'm just following the grain pattern of the door. So for the horizontal pieces, I went left to right, and then from the vertical pieces, I went up and down. And then once I had the whole kind of middle portion of the door done, then I did the long vertical pieces to the left and right of the door that are called stiles, and I did all of those from the top down. So once the door is dry, we're ready to move into step number 4, which is coats 2 and 3, or however many you need to do. Any additional coats, we'll call it. So when I did the second coat, I did the exact same pattern as I did before. And just keep in mind, your second coat is gonna go quicker than the first because you're gonna get way better spread on the second coat than you did on the first because you've got a semi-gloss going over top of itself. So you're just gonna get way better spread. It's also gonna be more prone to drips and heavy buildup areas. So just be aware of that as you're getting into corners and stuff. You might see some drips form. You just wanna go back and tag those with your brush and make sure you're just brushing those out out so you don't have anything like that drying into your finish. So for this door, after I did a second coat, I kind of looked at the door and it had some lighter spots where some of the primer was showing through a little bit. I just wanted to make sure it had a very uniform looking finish. So I went ahead and did a third coat. Same rules apply for any additional coats as the second coat. You're just gonna have the paint's gonna spread a little bit more prone to drip, so just watch out for that. But after I did the third coat and that dried, I was ready for step number 5, which is reassembly and cleanup. So once this door was painted, I didn't have all that much cleanup to do. I just scraped the glass a little bit with my carpenter's blade where I tagged it with my brush. Then I reinstalled the deadbolt and the doorknob, made sure it's shut and everything worked properly, and that's pretty much a wrap. But this door turned out really nice. I'm a big fan of just hand brushing these fiberglass front doors that have a grain pattern to them. I prefer that over rolling them. Again, those are for the ones that have a grain pattern like this one. Just hand brushing it looks really nice. You can get in all the little grooves that you need to, and just the brush marks kind of disappear into that finish. But it turned out good. Now, if you're looking to paint a door like this one, then you may also have some other exterior doors to paint. You can check this video out right over here to find out 3 big door prep mistakes that you'll want to avoid. Until next time, take it easy, work smart, and have a good one. Peace.